It's almost 6:30, so I'll just get started and say welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are here with another program, and actually the last program for the season of our series of nature talks in partnership with Mid-Coast Audubon. It's been a great series, and I'm excited that we're wrapping it up here with Laura Sebastianelli, who will take us on a listening journey to Acadia and beyond. And also, if you have headphones handy, probably it would be beneficial to wear them for this program, although not necessary, but I think it would be, increase the experience. And as a reminder to everyone, you can type your comments and questions into the chat or Q&A, and I will read them out loud at the end. And now I'll turn it over to Gail Presley, who's going to tell us what's going on at Mid-Coast Audubon, and then introduce Laura.
Thank you, Julia. Welcome, everyone. As she said, this is our last evening program. We do them monthly, pretty much in the fall, winter, and early spring every year. So we're working on our fall lineup, and the next program will start again in September. And the best place to get information about our programs and all of our upcoming field trips is on the Mid-Coast Audubon website, which is midcoast.maineaudubon.org/events. And I'll just tell you about a couple of upcoming field trips. May is the month, to get out there if you're in Maine for migrating songbirds. So we're taking a trip on May 11th to Sears Island up in Searsport. It's an incredible island that has a causeway and sticks out into Penobscot Bay and gets incredible spring migrants there. So we'll meet up there about 8 o'clock on Saturday, May 11th. And it's a pretty easy trip to nice paved walkway for walking, as opposed to some other places where we go when it's more into the woods. And our next field trip is on Saturday, May 25th. We're going to go out to Monhegan Island and catch some of the incredible spring migrants that show up there. In this case, we are full, but we're taking people on a waiting list now. We've done a little shift to some of our upcoming field trips, asking folks to send us an email to let us know that you're planning to come. That way our trip leaders can let you know if there's any special information that you need to know, or special equipment or boots or whatever, parking information, that kind of thing. So that trip is available for the wait list for May 25th. And then in June, on the 15th, we're going to go to a new place called Cloud March Salt Marsh, which is in Newcastle. And this is a place that's not open to the public. So it's a very limited access, and you definitely need to sign up for that. We're going to be able to take in 2 separate groups of people. So that's Saturday, June 15th. And the next one after that is Saturday, June 22nd. And we're going to visit the Burkett Mill Preserve in Waldoboro. It's a great combination of forest and wetland, and another lovely spot for spring migrants to go through. Although I should say by June 22nd, there'll be the folks that are deciding to nest in our area. So that should be really good. One more is a whale watch and pelagic trip on July 6th, which is a Saturday, going out of New Harbor, with 2 of our board members as trip leaders to help you identify pelagic birds. And then please mark your calendar for August 31st, Saturday, which is our lobster bake fundraiser. We try to do it every year out on Hog Island, and it's a really great day to get out on an island, walk around, and then have a traditional lobster bake with all the trimmings. It's our one fundraiser that we do for the year. So that's what's coming up, and we're delighted to have Laura Sebastianelli with us today. She is a naturalist with a passion for listening and sound recording. And in 2017, she established the Schoodic Notes Bird Sounds of Acadia. This is a collaborative project with Schoodic Institute's Bird Ecology program. And along with the help of a few other natural sound recordists, the project has archived over 1,200 recordings of Acadia's birds. Laura is also a seasoned educator and a wildlife technician, and she has very generously joined us tonight, and we're really excited to hear about your project. So take it away, Laura.
Great. Is it okay if I share my screen right from the beginning?
Yes, go for it.
Great. Okay.
And remember to click share sound.
Yep, they're still clicked, so I think we're good. Oh.
And high fidelity mode.
Whoops. Hold on one moment. Just what we didn't want to happen.
Well, we knew the sound works.
It'll be a
That's
moment.
good.
That's right.
Sounded great.
Okay, I wanted to start from the beginning here. I'm sorry.
No worries.
You just hit the wrong button again.
Okay, you could just go back the arrow.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. So let me take a breath now, because when you start off on the wrong foot, whew, okay. So you know what I really loved about this scale is when Will Prasad asked me if I would be willing to do a presentation. He said, now, I know you usually give talks about Schoodic Notes, but you've been recording for a while, and if you want to, you know, share sounds from all over the place, it doesn't have to just be Acadia and or other things besides the Schoodic Notes project, maybe other animals. I know you record other wildlife, and it sounded all of a sudden like really fun. I didn't have to have this punch list of, okay, I got to make sure I illustrate what I'm talking about in my talking point. So I was very delighted to have that freedom. And so this is going to be a different, I think, presentation for that reason, because there's no path of things that I have to talk about. Just share some really good, cool sounds. So first of all, I'll let you know that, a lot of birders talk about their spark bird. And, I never really considered myself a birder. I guess I came to birding through the back door, because my spark bird was a coyote. I used to do howling surveys out in the North Woods, and the sound of even just two animals sounded like an entire family group, even with just two coyotes. And so it got me into sound recording. And so I came to there's a lot more birds obviously than there are canids, so it quickly led me to record other things, especially birds, but everything from frogs and more. So around 2017, I had really gotten into recording birds and other sounds. And I said to Seth, hey, why don't I come, out to Acadia National Park, and we'll start recording the birds of Acadia. And he was like, okay, sure. Well, I don't think either of us had any idea how big that undertaking might be. And just the amount of time it takes to both record and process and upload the sound files. But we started in 2017, and with the help of a lot of sound recordists, some of whom are below, we've now archived about 1,200 recordings from the birds of Acadia. But like I said, I want to start back further with some of my favorite recordings. This one is from, let me just look at my notes here, Tahoe National Forest in the Yuba Pass in Sierra, California. And I love this recording because it's got some really interesting croaks and chuckles. And most important to me was this sound called knocks. So I'll play that. So that was about 9 sets of knocking in this recording, which was originally about 4 minutes long. There were 18 series of knocks. I'd never heard this sound before, so I was pretty delighted. And it was one of those serendipitous moments where I happened to be recording something else, and lo and behold, this raven landed on the tree, and I was below the tree. So all I had to do was lift up my mic and got that recording. So a lot of times I'm going to record birds, but I'm getting so much more than that. And this is a beautiful wood thrush song with percussion that's provided by a pileated woodpecker. And I think the forest vegetation and the steepness of this particular river that is a very steep grade created this really amazing reverberation, just gentle, but just made it really rich. So I don't remember if I said where that was from, but that is in Maryland, near Havre de Grace, at Herring Run Stream in Susquehanna State Park. This next recording was actually when my husband and I were living in Alexandria, Virginia, and we lived in a condo, and I was just doing some recordings of whatever birds came along, and we lived right on the edge of Dyke Marsh on the George Washington Memorial Parkway, which usually was a nightmare for recording, but I don't know how I got so lucky. But there was this downy woodpecker who was drumming on a snag, and I just loved how depending on which parts of the wood he was drumming on, it changed sound. The next one is the winter wren, and this was recorded on the Schoodic Peninsula. It was a rainy, well, drizzly kind of rain, sort of foggy-ish also, and as a result, the foghorn was sounding off in the background about every 2 minutes. You may hear one or two of that in this particular recording. But is there anything more energetic really than the song of the winter wren? I'm going to play a little movie that includes a spectrogram, so you can see just how complex this song is. It's beautiful to listen to, and I think sometimes, in my opinion, the spectrogram can really enhance what you're seeing as well. So it's just a time over frequency, X, Y. You don't need to know anything, but it's just interesting to see the spectrogram. You can hear some of that rain. Thanks. So the next one is you might recognize this photograph. This is Bass Harbor Head Lighthouse at Acadia. And, I didn't go here with the intention of, capturing an ambient recording. I went to go record birds, but sometimes it ends up, as I've mentioned, just being so much more. And the birds weren't really singing a lot. I couldn't get a good focus on them, but it turned out to be one of my favorite ambient recordings. It's typically, it's almost 11 minutes long, but I've just captured about 1:40. I haven't been known to play that on a loop and feel like I consider Maine my home and feel like I'm at home in Maine. So this next one is at a house that my husband and I used to live at. It's in Booth Bay, and this is a beautiful, tiny little wetland that most people don't even know exists, but it has a little creek, Campbell Creek, that empties into West Harbor Pond. And during frog season, it is just tremendous. And on this particular night, when I was recording, there were alewives that were swimming into Campbell Creek from West Pond. So this next favorite recording is on a little bog trail that's just north of the Schoodic Woods campground. And I had been recording pine warbler there, so I was just standing there quietly. And all of a sudden, 2 deer started snorting at me and perceiving me, I suppose, as some kind of dangerous sound recordist. But it eventually stopped after about 4 minutes. I did not run all 4 minutes of this, but they left with, I could not hear them leave the area, but here it is. I love the mosquitoes too. And I don't know, the lobster boat gives it a kind of a a Jaws kind of quality to it, you know, like this threatening boat in the background. So this place here was pretty special. My second year in the recording project, I got to live here, which is at the base of Schoodic Head, and it's kind of lovingly referred to as the bird cabin because Seth allowed some of his technicians to stay here, and this happened to be the year I got to stay there. And it meant that I was hearing things and had the opportunity to record things way after the day had ended. So, for instance, there happened to be a northern saw-whet owl who was calling almost every night, and there had never been a record, a breeding bird record of northern saw-whet owl. So I was trying to record whenever I heard it, and a lot of times I would just set up my recorder and leave it out there for a couple of hours. Whoops, hold on one second. Let's try that again. How about a third time for the charm? So I love that also in this, you can hear the tooting of the northern saw-whet owl, but also peents and wing booms from a common nighthawk, and of course, many frogs. Now apparently it won't stop playing. Okay, here we go. This was at our condo in Alexandria, Virginia. It's a trio of barred owls. I certainly would have been delighted with just that, but in fact, that trio of barred owls called for 55 minutes. And that would have been just our whole show if I played that back. So I just grabbed what I felt like was the best part of that. And I forgot to tell you too that when we were listening to the Northern Saw-Whet Owls, that was from a 42-minute recording, and in that there were over 25 cycles of toots, and it was just phenomenal. These long recordings, we don't often have an opportunity to share them, and so I just give you some highlights, but it's truly amazing. Just sit down and listen to them. So I've got 3 pieces of this recording. The common nighthawk. So this might be probably the best recording I have of common nighthawk, even though you can hear it was a very high surf kind of day, and so the water was crashing into the rock and making this noise, but I consider that to be part of the sense of place. So it never bothers me when I hear that, unless of course it's overpowering the recording. But what I love is, the reason why this came out so well is that I was sitting on top of Schoodic Head on a granite ledge, and I was about 400 feet up, and we were eye to eye. Usually, you're down on the ground at sea level or a little bit more, and if you're recording a common nighthawk, you don't get this clarity that you do when you're eye level and really not far from the animal at all, from the bird at all. So I just love this recording. The peents you probably recognize. I don't know if you've ever heard the wing boom, but it's literally their wings cutting through the air with a specialized feather, and it makes this, the air passes through the feathers and it makes this incredible boom. And you can, when you're there in person, it really feels like, it hits your chest. But this was the very first year that I had ever recorded common nighthawk, and over the course of 2 weeks, two other amazing recordings happened that have never happened since. And I want to share that with you. Here's a few days later. And this is, let's see, so we had the peents and the booms, and this is something called, I don't know what I call it rattles, because it sounds like a rattle, but it's actually the bill, the noise of their bill. And there were 3 common nighthawks. I was standing on the ledge, and there were 3 common nighthawks, and it was as if they were buzzing me. They were flying in formation, going over my head, and they did this like 3 times and making this rattle kind of sound. And at first I wondered if it was, like if they were perceiving me as a threat, but they went on for 17 minutes. So I don't think I really was a threat. But let's take a listen to this. And I'm going to stop it right about halfway because there's another sound I want to show you from the same recording. But first, let me just say this, is that when a friend of mine heard this, he was a curator at the Macaulay Library. And he said, I've never heard that sound before. And for this guy had been working at Cornell for a long time. And if Greg Budney tells you he's never heard that song, you better sit up and pay attention. And so he recommended that I check all the Zeno Canto files, which is a site similar to the Macaulay Library. And so I listened to thousands of recordings, both on the Macaulay Library and at Zeno Canto, and never found another one. The last time I checked was probably about 2021. I keep hoping that someday I'll hear it again, but we'll go there now. I'm going to stop that there for a minute. So I was very curious about this sound. And in addition to looking at all the recordings, I looked in the files of the personal papers and so forth of Alfred Otto Gross, who is a historic figure in ornithology, and his papers are at Bowdoin. And at the time, there were a lot of common nighthawks on the rooftops, the flat gravel rooftops. And he was having students sit up there and, take data for the season. And he described this sound and 3 birds flying in formation. And it was usually a 3rd bird that was being chased off by the pair, the established pair. So that's one theory. There's also a researcher on common nighthawks that says, she told me that she had heard this sound as a nest defense, but they hadn't heard it in flight. So there's still so many mysteries about it. I still hope to hear more, and I go back every year and hoping of hearing something like that. And I'm going to skip ahead. Whoops. Will it let me? Okay. So when I came back, to the campus, I said to Seth, what's this other weird sound? So we've heard you. Here we go. I asked Seth, is that some kind of frog or something that I don't know, which, would have been weird because I thought I knew the frogs in Maine. And he said, no, that's the bird. And, I didn't know. So a week later, I went back and I got my answer. This time when I went back to the top of Schoodic Head, I didn't want to be part of the story. So I tucked myself under a small little spruce and kind of took myself out of the way. And as I was sitting there, the nighthawks came in and they were doing their painting and wing booms. And all of a sudden, about 25 feet away from me, they landed and began a number of sounds. So you will hear, well, before they land, you'll hear the paints and the booms, and then you'll hear that groan sound, and then some clucks, and then they take off in flight again. Oh, you can, if you listen closely, you'll even hear some feathers, because, I mean, I'm telling you, my jaw couldn't have dropped more. Sitting there and 25 feet away, they were copulating on the bare rock right next to me. And now this needs no further introduction. It's just all adorable. That was at the Bates Morse Mountain in Pittsburgh, Maine, in the A-frame house. It was just adorable. It was about 3 a.m. By the way, insomnia helps if you want to be a bird sound recordist. So this next one is, as that was adorable, this is pure weird and wonderful. So that sound in the beginning where you're hearing this tapping, it's almost like a conductor tapping on, the stand before the orchestra starts up. And so it goes from this bill clacking into the pumperlunk kind of sound. It's one of those things, again, and why I wanted to show the spectrogram is that that's something you could miss. But when you see that spectrogram, it's clear. That's no weird artifact. That is the bird. And I don't know if you've ever seen a video of the American bittern when they're making this sound, but while they're doing that bill clacking, there's a full-bodied, violent forward motion, and it looks like they're catching an insect with their bill. That's how Macaulay Library describes it. And it really is, it's like this violent, throw their body forward, grab that insect, and then they start with the gulping, and it's just amazing. That's a bird that I first recorded when I started the project in 2017. The recording was so awful, I didn't even want to post it, but at least we had one. And so sometimes you have just plain luck, it's serendipity, and other times you have to persist. And last year I decided I was going to persist, and it took me a few times to get close enough to get a good recording, but it was I'm very pleased with it, and it was a lot of fun. This next one is something that happens down here in Maryland. So we have snow geese, which are way northern geese that come down to this area. I'm in Cambridge, right near the Blackwater Wildlife Refuge, 6 miles from there. And these birds are amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they gather in large groups. I've seen them, in as small groups of maybe 300, but this particular recording that you're going to hear was over 1,000 snow geese. And they have this spectacle, this visual spectacle. They're sitting on the water, and then all of a sudden someone in the group perceives a threat, and it's this predator avoidance behavior. They fly up, they wheel about, and then usually landing in about the same place. And in this recording, they actually flew over my head. It felt like I could just reach up. It was probably 15 feet above me. They rose out of this pond that you're looking at in front of us. They flew over me and then into the Blackwater River, the little Blackwater River, and they make this sound. First of all, they're chattering, just so you're going to hear know what's coming up. They're chattering around, and then all of a sudden there's this immediate full flock burst into the air. So you hear this tremendous wing beats of 1,000 birds. Then you're hearing this high level screaming while they're wheeling about. So the direction of the sound changes a bit. And then when they land again, they start making a hooty kind of a sound. But here we go. And this was pretty much how I spent my first winter here. Chasing snow geese. Another one of my favorite recordings is of a favorite bird is the American woodcock. I love this little illustration for, you know, how it shows that it spirals up. And when they're spiraling up is when their specially adapted wing feather, primary feather, is making its sound. And then when they're spiraling down, back down, they are producing a vocal sound. It's a chattering. And then they land on the ground and begin their painting, and the whole process starts again. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. This starts with the bird coming down. This is the last slide that I'm going to be showing you tonight, and this is blue-headed vireo, and they do have a lovely call, and with some, like, I don't know, circus sounds is what I call them, and little zerwees and stuff. But I had this experience with the with the blue-headed vireo, where I was approaching it very slowly, and I just wanted a really good recording, although it was very high surf kind of day, so there was a lot of background noise, but I just thought, okay, if I can get close enough, it'll be all right. So I was with this bird approaching incrementally over 30 minutes. And 15 minutes into this recording, the bird just belted out what is referred to as a complex song. And I do have the spectrogram on this because it's just amazing. And if you are not close to this bird, you would not hear the complex sound. It's significantly softer. So on the spectrogram, you'll see there's a bar for the amplitude. And look what happens when it changes into the complex song and how it's usually performed near the nest. And so, so a lot of times you won't hear this. In fact, there's only one other birding friend I know of who has ever heard it in person. They had never heard of this particular complex song. So here we go. It's jaw-dropping. That's what I call the circus sound. That's my circus sound. And that's it. Just a few of my favorites.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was incredible. It totally transported me to a different to where these birds, when the creatures were, and that complex sound of the vireos. That's amazing.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a comment saying thank you so much for sharing your passion. I second that. And anybody who has any questions, definitely feel free to type them into the chat or Q&A. We have some time. Another comment, thank you. That was wonderful. The best sound recordings I've ever heard.
Oh, that's nice.
Another comment says, this was fun. Thank you. It was so fun. You must have just been ecstatic as you were hearing that song of the vireo.
You know, every one of these recordings, while I was hearing it, it took real patience to not just run to the car and drive home and process this sound so I can share it with people.
Yeah. Wow. What is the process like for, getting out into the field, and how, do you usually find one place and you stay there, or do you kind of go wandering about, scouting out where there might be good sounds?
All of the above.
Mhm.
It depends on the day. but I often just go, head towards a specific trail or area, and just walk down the trail and see what happens. And usually it's luck. There's the other thing I said yes and all of the above is sometimes I am very focused and persistent, and I'm chasing, so to speak, that sound. I mentioned my first winter chasing snow geese, and they're never rarely in the same place. So all of the above.
Mm-hmm. We have a question that says, what equipment do you use for your recording?
Oh, anything. So in other words, you can use a cell phone. It has a mic that is not directional, which makes it a challenge. But if you have backyard birds, you can easily use a cell phone and get some good recordings. I even have some nice wild turkey on as a cell phone recording. So, but I do use professional equipment, and over the years, I just keep getting better and better equipment. Right now, I'm using a recorder with something called a 32-bit float, which is tech stuff. But what it really means is that if you're recording something and there's an explosive sound, the sound isn't going to clip. It's going to self-adjust. And so I never have to worry about clipping anymore, which is wonderful. A lot of times in the past, like I had this loon predation event, and it was so loud that the recording was clipped, and then it's distorted and it's not a pleasant listen. But it's still good data, and it tells you something. So.
Oh. How did you first get into doing recordings?
Well, I mentioned my sparkbird being a coyote, and I'm very serious. I used to do howling surveys, and I ran, I went to a program where Greg Budney from Cornell's Lab of Ornithology was there, and literally one of those situations again where I almost ran off the island, swam over to drive away, because I was like, oh my God, digital recording is the way to go. You can look at the spectrogram and see details, and it will be easy. It isn't really that easy to learn how to identify with spectrograms, but I have become quite skilled at that. But so that's kind of how I started. And I did a citizen science project called the Wolf Inquiry Project, and we trained citizen scientists to go out in the North Woods and record. But of course, we never recorded wolf. It was all coyote, which I love. I do love coyote, but anyway, it's a lot easier to find birds to record and other wildlife than it is. So I became so addicted with sound recording. It's literally like having the animal on your shoulder. That's what Don Cruz says, and it's very addictive. So I apologize in advance.
Oh, it's wonderful. Would you be able to? Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, are your recordings contributed to the Macaulay Library now?
Yes, all of them are. And the Schoodic Notes project was specifically designed to not be at the mercy of me or any other charismatic person. And I wanted them to be saved for posterity. And the closest thing you can get to forever in sound recordings is putting your recordings at the Macaulay Library. And so all of our recordings are uploaded to the Macaulay Library.
Great.
It's the largest sound recording library in the world.
And makes them available for anyone who wants to do research as well, right?
It makes them available to anyone who wants to do anything with them. So, educators, researchers, education and outreach people, creative projects. So yes, and that was important to me. I didn't want a lot of, particularly, I don't want to say particularly the Park Service, but I didn't want them locked up in the Park Service. I wanted people to be able to access that. And so they can do that online, and that's wonderful.
It's really great.
It's great. I have a couple more nice comments. Thank you, Laura. We're blessed to be on the receiving end of all your hard work. Love it. Thank you for sharing. Such an inspiration. Fabulous. Thank you. You've given me a new appreciation for listening to sounds around me.
Excellent.
And then we have a question. I'm not exactly sure what this refers to. Oh, what was the cute creature? I think they're referring
Oh,
to the
that was the baby
porcupine.
Now that picture was taken on Mount Batty, but the recording was from Morse Mountain. They have a series of properties that they rent out, and that recording was in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. I don't know why it's like summer or whatever. I'm constantly listening for who's out there. I sleep throughout the winter. I sleep with the window open, so that I can know what's going on. And I keep my recording equipment at the ready, usually right by the door, so I can run out.
That's great.
But would you be able to briefly explain what a spectrogram is and how it works?
Yeah, basically it's a picture of frequency over time. So on an XY axis, like this, one is frequency, this is frequency, and then this is time. And it goes out.
Okay.
So it's giving a visual representation of the sounds that you hear. It becomes like reading music. You'll see when you play it enough, you start knowing what the next sound is going to be, that it slurs upward or it comes down, and it tells you like where that sound that is being played, what direction it's headed in, so to speak. And then I mentioned the amplitude. Some of the spectrograms that I had the amplitude at the top, and that tells you how loud it is.
Okay. Thank you.
So one person is asking if you ever play back a recording to the bird to get a response or a reaction, like for the owls.
No, I have very strong ethics about that. And I call it ethics because it is hard work being a bird. It's a hard life, and they don't need me playing around while they're eating or trying to find a mate or communicating whatever it is that they have to do. And so I do not use playback. Once when I was with a friend, though, we were like, so it sounds like this. And I said, yeah, listen. And I had it really, really, I used my little thing, really, really quiet. And I was sharing on, one of these apps that has it. This is what it sounds like. And darn it, don't you know, the bird heard it. So, so I didn't expect that. But in general, I do not call. Now, I have used my voice, but not when I'm recording. When I'm recording, so for instance, on an owl prowl, I have, barn owls, they're like coyotes. They'll respond to the worst imitation of their calls. Now, do I do that all the time? No. But when I'm recording, I absolutely do not. Not only do I not want to bother the bird, but I want natural behavior. So if I'm responding, how do I know, their intentions in responding? Are they feeling threatened? Are they, so I don't like to do that for recordings. I want to capture the animals in the wild, which is, in their natural behavior, which is why it can be hard, but it's worthwhile.
Thank you.
And Seth Benz reminds everyone that playback is illegal inside the national park as well.
Yes.
Okay, that is good to know. All right. Well,
I'll just say, while Seth is there, thank you, Seth. You've been a great collaborator. I could not have done as much as I have without your help and encouragement.
Who is Seth? And
Seth Benz is the director of the bird ecology program at Schoodic Institute, which is the official partner for research and education for the Acadia National Park.
Okay. Well, nice to see you online, Seth. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was wonderful. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, thank you.
Laura.
It's a great opportunity to share my favorites.
Yeah, those were pretty spectacular.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy recording out there, and hope you find some more awesome sounds.
And if anyone wants to volunteer, get in touch with me.
Okay. And how can they get in touch with you?
wildaroundus@gmail.com. But if you forget, just contact Seth Benz at Schoodic. You can find him online and send him an email, and he can forward it to me. We provide training, and we have loans of equipment, and all we require is 20 hours of field recording back is service. So
Great.
thanks.
Great.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Have a great
you.
Great night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.